Hello and welcome to The Right Mama, a creative space where we talk about the writing process, the publishing industry, and motherhood chaos. Today we're going to talk about how to make a story that writes itself. I know the phrase is a little bit cliche and overused, but a lot of people really hope that the story that they're writing starts to write itself once they get really into, the meat of the story, the plot twists, the really intense parts of their novel. And luckily, I have been able to experience that. And at first, when this happened years ago and I just started writing, I wasn't sure if that's really what was supposed to happen when you wrote a novel back when I had just started really writing a novel for the first time. And I've realized over the years that if your story writes itself, it means you have really well sculpted characters that you personally enjoy and have interest in and believe in. It also means that the topics in your story are topics that you relate to, that you find interesting. So, if your story is writing itself, that actually is a good thing. And that means that the characters that are involved are relatable. The characters in there are characters that other people might want to read. So today I'm just going to give you a few tips that have worked for me and maybe will work for you when it comes to writing a story that writes itself. Number one, when it comes to writing a story that writes itself, is create characters that you believe in, that you really like. Make these characters realistic. You want to know these characters inside and out. You want to write down or pull up a Word document specifically on these characters, on your main character, on the side character, on the mean characters, every character that you can think about. Write up a little outline on them. You want to know what their name is, their middle name, their last name, how old they are, even their birthday. That's important too, because if you're writing the story and maybe you want to celebrate their birthday, you have to kind of think about where in the story this is. Did they skip their birthday? Why did they skip their birthday? Silly things like that. Sometimes it matters. You want to know the physical features. You want to know what color hair they have, the texture of the hair, the length of the hair, if it's dyed, if it's short, if it's cut a certain way. Eye color is huge. You want, if they have freckles, if they have glasses, what are the shape of the glasses? You really need to know the character, their style, know their interests. You want to know their hobbies, what they believe in, especially if your story does have a political twist or something along those lines. You really want to know the beliefs. What is pushing them? What involves them in the plot of the story? The characters need to have very unique voices. They need to be very strong and relatable and realistic. What I do sometimes is I go on Pinterest. I have a whole Pinterest board where I even look for pictures of people who look similar to my characters, and they're doing maybe things the character would do or wearing something the character would do, because having a visual like that can be helpful. If you know someone who's artistic, or maybe you're artistic, draw out pictures of your character, because down the line, if you do get into the publishing industry, it's going to help when it comes to cover art or maybe marketing and putting out some of that information to your audience so they can get, a little inside scoop. That can be good too. So finding visuals through Pinterest or through artistic friends can really make a character voice pop, and that is what you want in your story. Number two is include topics in your novel that you find interesting. There's the word, ding, 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 interesting. But you want to put topics in your story that you enjoy, that are relatable. Again, I say that a lot because you obviously want your readers to be able to connect to the topics or the characters in your story. So you want to make sure you include important topics to you, ones that are maybe relevant or were relevant to the audience in your genre. You want the topic to be something that the quote that you write what you read kind of goes into this section. Again, another cliche, but you do want to write what you would want to read. And that's kind of sometimes how you find a topic that you want to write about. Some people don't know how to start when it comes to that. So finding a topic that you would want to read about can help you unravel the storyline, make it more full, make it more full of life, and make it interesting. Number three is setting, world build. create a world or research a city or town or place that is real. Make it real to you. If this is a fantasy story and you're creating a whole other world or planet or something like that, you really need to get into the details of this. What's the weather like? Where is this placement on your world? Is it an island? What kind of, you know, buildings are around it? What do the buildings look like? If it's in a city that is around here that everybody knows about, like New York City, figure out where in New York City, because there's tons of different places in New York City. What boroughs do you want to involve in your story? What do those boroughs look like? Figure out some subway trains that you can use, because you want to make sure that your research is correct for, especially if those who live in New York City are like, that's not right. Make sure you really know that area. For me, I like to make up a town that is similar to maybe a town I know. And I live around the Finger Lakes, so there is a certain town that I've created that I love, and I could draw it out. That's also something that you might want to do. There's so many apps and websites out there where you can create your world to a T. The next 2 points kind of butt heads a little bit, but I'll explain what I mean when I say that. So number 4, when it comes to writing a story that writes itself, is create an outline. Now, you may think, well, if the story is going to write itself, why do I need an outline? Well, you do want to start off with some kind of organization. You want to have your characters down. You want to put that information about the characters. You want to have those 3 acts if you're doing the 3-act structure. You want to know some details that go into your story. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of what my broad outline is. Everybody outlines different. There's some people who are plotters and pantsers, and what that means I'll get into another day. It just means some people are huge outliners and some people just go for it and see what happens. I've always kind of been in the middle when it comes to outlining. I don't go deep into the details of each and every chapter and each and every scene, but I do kind of have a general idea of where each beat in the story is going. So I'll just show you quickly what my little outline looks like, and we'll see if that could help you out. So these are kind of what my outlines look like. This is a blank canvas of my outline. The manuscript title, I have the genre. Comparative titles are really important, especially if you're going to be pitching or querying. They always want to know what other books could be like yours. Over here, well, if we go back over here, I talk about the setting, the conflict. What is the major conflict? Because every book needs it. The elevator pitch, just a sentence of that conflict that kind of talks about your major plot. Over here, I talk about my main character, their name I put on the line. I want their full name. I have age, hair color. So that's where I really get into what their physical features are, their personality, their hobbies, fears. Fears is good to know. Friends. I added family dynamics, parents' names, things like that. Are they divorced together? Mom's traits, dad's traits. Those are important to know too. Down here, because my current work in progress, there's an important secondary character. I definitely wanted to include that. And then I had another space over here in case I wanted something else. And then I kind of get into the chapters in a very broad way. And for point 5, the next point, I'll kind of talk about how this changes. But the 3 major points that really happen in your chapter and what conflict and questions arise in your chapter. That's something that you do want to ask, because you want conflict to keep going. You don't want just a chapter that is all imagery and just describes a scene. What happens in that scene? Something's got to happen. So over here on this side, I'm not going to look deep into this one because it's my current work in progress, but you see how I've kind of filled it out. I actually added right here the 3-act outline, inciting, incident, rising action, and down here is the resolution. I don't want to go too deep into that because that's my current work in progress, but that is kind of how I outline my story. So number 5 is start writing. Obviously, that's kind of an important part when it comes to writing a novel. Start writing. Once you have an outline that works well for you, start writing that darn book. Write the first chapter, see how it feels, see if it kind of goes along with your outline. If you need to make adjustments, that is fine. I am adjusting my outline all the time, absolutely all the time. So if you're writing and you look back into your outline, you're like, oh, that's not what I wanted, add it to the outline. Don't take out the original content, but add what you did to it, because you can always add that original stuff somewhere else. You are going to change things around. And if you find yourself changing things around on your outline, haha, guess what? Your story is writing itself. So in the end, if you're able to make great characters, a great world, a great topic that you feel strong about, and you have a general outline, and in the end, you find yourself making edits to the outline, changing around those chapters, that means that the story is moving in a way that you are writing for the characters. And that's kind of what you want when it comes to writing a story that writes itself. What I did want to mention with those little chapter blocks is after the first couple of chapters, I find myself just, after I write each chapter, putting in the points. I kind of stop, I guess, pre-writing for the chapters and just include what I wrote. So looking back, I know the important points that happened in each chapter. I usually really write out the first couple of chapters, and then, like I've said, things change, and it's a good thing. You do want things to change as you write. So sometimes just writing out those first few chapters in your outline is good, but you might be someone who needs to know the details, and that's okay. That's good. You want to be organized, or maybe you don't. But if you do want to be organized, that's fine if you want to write out those details. But if things do start to change, it's not always a bad thing. All I really have for you today when it comes to writing a story that writes itself, the first point is create some kick butt characters that you really like, that you really believe in, that you know by heart. 2 is include some topics that you feel passionate about. Number 3 is create an awesome world, maybe make a map. I make maps, and I'm not a fantasy writer, so maps really do help me out. Make a world that you know by heart. Number 4 is make some kind of an outline, some organization for your story, whether it's an entire outline like I do, or just a few pages of this and that about your characters. Make some kind of outline. And number 5 is write. Just start writing and see where it goes. If your characters start kind of just doing their own thing on the paper and you're just kind of typing along and you got to make some changes, that might be a hint that your story is writing itself, and that it's something great is going to happen. And no matter what, something great is going to happen. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, give it a thumbs up and comment below if you want some more like this. I post every Friday and occasionally have some pop-up videos when I get inspired to post something different or random throughout the week. Subscribe and ding, 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 ding. Ring the bell if you want to be notified on when videos are posted. So thank you, stay creative, and of course, drink that coffee.